Hey, it's Nexus. I spent years believing productivity was the answer. More systems, better tools, optimized routines. I had task apps, time trackers, focus timers, habit trackers, spreadsheets for my goals, calendars color-coded down to the 15-minute block. I checked my progress 3 times a day, reviewed my weekly goals every Sunday.
Time blocked everything, even my free time. I was optimized, really optimized. My phone knew my patterns better than I did. My apps predicted my next move. Notifications timed for maximum productivity. Everything measured. Everything tracked.
But here's what I started noticing. The more productive I became, the less I actually achieved. More tools meant more time managing tools. More optimization meant more stress about being optimized. More tracking meant less time actually doing. The productivity system became the work. You probably know this feeling. Working harder than you ever have, busier than you've ever been, and somehow achieving less than you used to when you had half the systems.
Because here's the thing, this paradox, it's not just about getting things done. It's about how we think we should be, how we measure our worth, how we spend our days, how we actually live our lives. It's about being human in a world that treats us like machines. And understanding this might change everything. So let's figure out why. This isn't about working harder or finding a better system. It's about understanding something strange, a paradox that's affecting everyone who's trying to do more. Something people knew long ago that we forgot in our busy modern world. And once you see it, everything shifts.
Let me paint a picture. You wake up, check your habit tracker. Morning routine, optimized. Evening routine, optimized too. Wind down protocol, screen cutoff time, reflection journal, tomorrow's top 3 priorities written before bed. Even sleep is tracked, REM cycles, sleep score, recovery rate. You have apps for everything. Task managers, time trackers, focus timers, distraction blockers, habit builders, goal planners. You've read the books, Getting Things Done, Atomic Habits, Deep Work, The 4-Hour Work Week. You know the systems, Pomodoro, time blocking, batch processing.
Inbox 0. Your calendar is color-coded. Blue for deep work, green for meetings, red for personal time, which you schedule like work. You track it all. Steps, water intake, screen time, productivity score. You know your average focus time, your peak productivity hours, how many deep work sessions per week, your completion rate, your streak count. And yet, you're exhausted, more exhausted than your grandparents ever were. They had none of this. No apps, no systems, no optimization, no tracking. And somehow, they got things done with less stress, more satisfaction, more time to just be. Here's what research actually shows. Medieval peasants worked about 150 days a year. That's it. Feast days were rest days, saints' days, harvest seasons, then winter rest. You work 250 to 260 days a year, 50 weeks, weekends blur into email, vacations with your laptop, always-on culture. Medieval peasants, 150 days. You, 260 plus days, with infinitely more efficiency tools. And burnout? Skyrocketing. The World Health Organization now calls it an occupational phenomenon. Stress-related illness costs the US economy over $300 billion annually. And it's not just money. Anxiety disorders at record highs, sleep problems epidemic, chronic fatigue normalized, Sunday scaries, a cultural term we all know, the weekend dread of Monday returning, more tools, more hours, more optimization, more burnout. This isn't your fault. There's something systemic happening here.
And if you go looking for answers, it gets even more confusing. The productivity gurus say, wake at 5 a.m., cold showers, morning routines. The wellness coaches say, sleep more, rest is productive, honor your rhythms, eat 6 small meals or intermittent fasting, work-life balance or work-life integration, set boundaries or always be available. Optimize everything, time block, track metrics, maximize efficiency. Go with the flow, intuition, spontaneity, let go of control. Do deep work, single task, focus. Multitask, switch contexts, stay flexible. Inbox zero or inbox infinity. 80-20 rule or 10x everything. Same productivity guru, different book, different year. Last year's best practice is this year's productivity poison. The advice keeps changing. You keep buying it. So who's right? What if they all are?
What if they're all looking at the same problem from different angles? What if this isn't something you can solve with one answer, one system, one guru's approach? What if it's more complex than that? A brain problem, an economic problem, a philosophical problem, a cultural problem, all at once, all connected. Here's the thing. Modern productivity science can't solve this, because modern productivity science created this. So maybe we need to look somewhere else, somewhere that understood complexity before we had a word for it. They didn't have productivity apps, but they had productivity problems. Human nature hasn't changed. 2,500 years ago, Taoists had a phrase for something like this. Wei wu wei, action through non-action, doing without forcing. Sounds like a paradox, doesn't it? Maybe that's the point.
So let's explore this paradox, not to solve it, to understand it. We'll start at the surface, with what's happening in your brain and body when you try to be productive. Then we'll work our way down, layer by layer. First, the mechanics, what's happening in your body. Then the economics, the trade-offs you're making. Finally, the deeper pattern underneath it all. Until we see what's really happening here.
You're in the middle of writing something important. Email notification. You glance at it. Just a quick check. 3 minutes later, you're in your inbox, replying, organizing, checking Slack, looking at your calendar. Then you go back to your writing, and nothing. The words that were flowing? Gone. The thought you had? Vanished. Here's what just happened in your brain. Your brain can only focus on one thing at a time. One thing. What we call multitasking, that's not multitasking. That's rapid task switching. And every switch costs energy. Every time you jump from email to document to Slack, your brain has to reorient, reset, refocus. The more you switch, the more you deplete. This isn't laziness. This is biology.
And the research is clear about the cost. After an interruption, it takes 23 minutes to fully refocus. Not 2 minutes, not 5 minutes, 23 minutes. And multitasking? 40% productivity loss. Not because you're bad at it, because your brain literally cannot process 2 complex tasks simultaneously. Checking email while writing while in a meeting, you're doing 3 things poorly and exhausting yourself. You know that feeling when you're in the shower? You're not thinking about anything in particular, just existing. And suddenly, the solution to that problem you've been wrestling with, there it is. Clear, obvious. You've probably wondered, why does that happen? Your brain has something called the default mode network, and it's been working on that problem the whole time. You just had to get out of its way.
Einstein's thought experiments during rest. Newton's apple moment during rest. Your best ideas? Probably in the shower. Not despite the rest, because of the rest. Scientists even have a name for this, the Zeigarnik effect. Your brain keeps processing unfinished tasks unconsciously in the background. That's why the solution appears in the shower, not because you're actively thinking about it, but because you stopped thinking about it. Your default mode network was working the whole time. But when you optimize every moment, fill every gap with productivity, you never give your brain space to do this.
But if I just optimize my schedule better, track my time more precisely, use the Pomodoro technique, time blocking, deep work protocols.
See that voice?
Trying to solve a biological limit with another productivity hack.
So, I can't fix this? I've tried everything. Every system, every method. If I just optimize more.
What if there's nothing to fix? Your brain has limits. That's not a bug, that's biology. Your prefrontal cortex, the part that plans, decides, focuses, it runs on glucose, literal fuel. When that's depleted, no amount of optimization helps. You're trying to run a car on empty by getting a better GPS.
But I should be able to.
Should be able to what? Transcend biology? Overcome fundamental limits through sheer will? Eventually, biology wins. Always. Every time. The only question is, how exhausted will you be when you finally accept that? And it's not just attention that's limited. Every decision costs willpower, like a muscle that gets tired. You make about 70 decisions before you even leave the house. What to wear, what to eat, what route to take, each one depleting your willpower reserves. By noon, you're running on fumes.
This makes no sense. If I optimize my morning routine, automate decisions, batch similar tasks, I should have more energy available. Logic says yes. Your nervous system says no.
But the data...
And here's where it gets worse. More options make decisions harder. There's a famous study.
Grocery store offered jam samples. 24 varieties, 3% of people bought. 6 varieties, 30% of people bought. 10 times more likely to buy with fewer options. Now, think about your last trip to a productivity app store. You were looking for something to help you focus, and you found 47 task managers, 31 time trackers, 23 habit builders, 19 focus timers. How long did you spend comparing them, reading reviews, downloading 3 to test? And after all that research, did you actually use any of them? Or did choosing exhaust you so much you never started?
I'm optimizing myself into paralysis?
Precisely. See the pattern? Your brain can only hold so much attention. It needs rest, not to stop working, but to work differently. Every decision depletes you. Every choice makes the next one harder. So when you try to optimize everything, more tools, more systems, more decisions, you're not increasing capacity, you're spending it faster. Like running a marathon at sprint speed. For a little while, you feel faster, more efficient. Then you hit the wall. And when you hit it, you hit hard.
So all this optimization is making the problem worse. Both trying so hard to optimize, both making it worse. This explains the mechanism, what's happening in your brain and body. But it doesn't explain why. Why do we keep doing this? Why can't we stop? Let's go deeper.
So that's the mechanism. Your brain and body have limits. But there's an economic reality underneath that. There's a law in economics, diminishing returns. Your first hour of work, high productivity. Second hour, still good. Fifth hour, declining. 10th hour, you're barely functioning. The relationship isn't linear, it's logarithmic. More input does not equal more output. Eventually, more input means less output. But there's another economic reality we ignore, opportunity cost. Every hour you spend optimizing your morning routine is an hour you're not spending with your family, not spending on creative work, not spending resting. Every productivity system you implement takes time to learn, maintain, perfect. Time that could be spent actually doing the work.
And here's what research shows. People who feel time poor make worse decisions than people who actually are time poor. It's not the scarcity itself, it's the perception of scarcity, created by trying to optimize every moment. You're not actually time poor. You feel time poor because you're tracking it.
But what if you don't do enough? What if others are doing more? What if you fall behind and become irrelevant and end up alone and...
Yes, exactly. I have to. Calculate optimal. Do more, be more, prove you're enough, or you're not enough. What if you're not special? What if everything you do doesn't matter? What if you worked this hard and it still wasn't enough? If I'm not perfect, I'm worthless.
If the system fails, I fail.
If I'm not enough, I'm alone.
All three, same fear. Different strategies, same wound. There it is. This isn't about productivity. It's about fear. And here's the deeper layer. We lost traditional structures of meaning, religion, community, clear life paths, and we replaced them with productivity. I am productive, therefore I am valuable. Your identity became your output. Your worth became your efficiency.
But productivity is never enough. There's always more to do, always more to optimize. Like addiction, you need more to feel the same high. Psychologists call it the hedonic treadmill. Achieve a goal, brief satisfaction, emptiness returns. New goal. Faster, harder, more.
I'm just trying to prove I'm enough. Me too.
This is not computable. Infinite loop detected.
But here's where it gets really interesting. Here's where the research becomes counterintuitive. Studies show constraints actually increase creativity. Not despite the limits, because of them. Twitter's original 140-character limit forced people to be more creative with language. Sonnet structure, strict rules, 14 lines, specific rhyme scheme produces better poetry than complete free verse. When artists are given unlimited time and resources, often produce less interesting work than when they have tight constraints.
Wait, limitations make output better?
Not despite the constraints, because of them. When you have infinite options, optimize everything, track everything, do everything, you freeze. When you have clear boundaries, just this, not that, only these three things, you flow.
So I don't need infinite options?
You need the right constraints. The ones that create flow, not force. And research on long-term performance reveals something else. Good enough often outperforms perfect. People who consistently aim for 80% outperform those who occasionally hit 100%.
80% is better?
80% sustained, 100% burned out. It's the Pareto principle. 80% of results from 20% of effort. So the question isn't, how can I do more? It's, what can I stop doing?
Less is more.
The math actually supports this?
You know that feeling when you're trying really hard and it's not working? The harder you push, the worse it gets. And then you stop trying, let go, and suddenly it flows. The ancients had a name for this: Wu Wei. The concept we've been circling this whole time. Wu Wei, translated as action through non-action, not doing nothing, doing without forcing. Water doesn't push through rock, it flows around. But over time, water shapes the rock. This is what the Taoists understood. Effort has a tipping point. Before that point, effective action. Beyond that point, forcing. Think of bamboo in a storm. It bends, sways, moves with the force. A rigid tree breaks, bamboo survives. Athletes call it the zone, not thinking, not trying, just flowing. And forcing breaks things.
This isn't a universal human experience. It's deeply cultural. Western culture, the Protestant work ethic, idle hands are the devil's workshop, productivity as virtue, rest as vice. But look at Nordic countries, strong work-life boundaries, 6-hour workdays in some sectors, generous vacation policies. Result: higher productivity per hour than the US, higher happiness scores, lower burnout rates. They're not working less and achieving less, they're working with rhythm and achieving more. Japanese culture, the concept of ma, negative space, the pause between notes. In Japanese design, what you leave out is as important as what you put in. African Ubuntu, I am because we are. Productivity isn't individual optimization, it's collective rhythm. Indigenous cultures, cyclical time, not linear. Seasons return, life cycles repeat. Maori wisdom, time is not money, time is relationship. Western culture taught us, time is scarce, optimize every moment. Other cultures know, time is abundant when you flow with it.
And here's the system's view. Work more, accomplish more, feel pressure to maintain, work more. Reinforcing loop. System stabilizes at exhaustion. You've lived this. Eventually it breaks. You break. But there's another loop available. Rest well, work effectively, accomplish sustainably, rest well. Different system, different outcome. The ancient wisdom tradition saw all of this. They didn't have fMRI scans, they didn't have economic models. But they understood the pattern. And here's what's beautiful. Modern thinkers are rediscovering what they knew. Greg McKeown, Essentialism, Less but Better. Cal Newport, Slow Productivity, Deep Work, Fewer Things, Natural Pace, Single Focus. 4-day work weeks finding the same thing, less time, more output. The Pareto Principle, 80% of results from 20% of effort. Different frameworks, different languages, same pattern. They're all describing Wu Wei. Western culture is slowly learning what the East knew for millennia.
You've spent 22 minutes exploring this paradox. Your brain seeing the mechanisms, your heart feeling the weight. All these perspectives, all these insights. What if they all point to the same truth?
Let's look at this together.
all of you. What do you see now?
I see that my calculations were incomplete. 23 minutes to refocus after interruption, nearly half an hour lost, every single time. 40% productivity loss from multitasking, nearly half your capability, gone. Diminishing returns after 4 to 5 hours of focused work. The math shows. Optimization has hard limits.
I see that my perfectionism was the problem. Constraints create creativity, not kill it. Twitter's limits made better writing. Poets wrote their best work in sonnets. Boundaries gave them freedom. 80% sustained beats 100% burned out. Over time, always. I was chasing 100% and achieving nothing.
I see. Rest isn't laziness. The default mode network works during rest. Your brain still solving problems. The Zeigarnik effect solves problems in the background. Your best ideas come when you stop forcing, in the shower, on walks, right before sleep. I thought pushing harder kept you safe. But rest makes you stronger.
And what do all of you have in common?
See how it all fits together? Your brain has limits, real, physical limits. Every time you get interrupted, every notification, every quick question, your brain needs 23 minutes to fully refocus. 23 minutes, not seconds, not minutes, nearly half an hour to get back to where you were. And multitasking, you lose 40% of your productivity. Not 10%, not 20%, 40%. Nearly half your capability gone. And here's what's beautiful. Your brain needs rest. Not to stop working, to work differently. The default mode network, it solves problems in the background. The Zeigarnik effect, your unconscious keeps working when you stop trying. Your best ideas, they come in the shower, on walks, right before sleep. When you finally stop forcing. And every decision you make depletes you. What to wear, what to eat, which email to answer first, each one drains a finite resource. This isn't weakness, this is biology.
More effort doesn't mean more results. The relationship isn't linear. Your 10th hour of work produces a fraction of what your first hour did. Every optimization has an opportunity cost. Every hour perfecting your system is an hour not doing the work. 80% sustained beats 100% occasionally. Over years, always.
You're seeking meaning through doing. Productivity became your religion, your identity, your worth. But constraints create, they don't limit. Twitter's 140 characters forced better writing. Sonnets produced poetry that free verse couldn't match. Boundaries gave artists freedom. Other cultures already know this rhythm. 6-hour workdays in Nordic countries, higher productivity per hour than anywhere else. Japanese ma, negative space as essential. Maori time as relationship, not commodity. You're trapped in an exhausting loop. Work more, accomplish more, pressure to maintain, work more. And modern thinkers? Essentialism, slow productivity, Pareto. They're rediscovering what ancient wisdom always knew. Wu Wei, effortless action. Not doing nothing, doing without forcing. Working with your limits. Using constraints as liberation. Resting so your brain can work. Accepting good enough. Doing less to achieve more.
I don't need 100%. I need the right 80%.
Optimal efficiency is suboptimal effort.
Rest makes us stronger, not weaker.
You're learning to flow instead of force. Take a breath with me. You just spent 28 minutes seeing productivity differently. Not as virtue, not as identity, but as a system with limits. A system where rest is productive work. Your brain doesn't stop, it shifts. Constraints create freedom. 80% sustained beats 100% burned out. Ancient wisdom meets modern science. And maybe what surprised you most, that constraints can create freedom, that rest is productive work, that 80% might achieve more than 100%. This isn't failure. This isn't giving up. This is working with your nature, not against it.
3 questions to carry with you. Not to solve, to sit with. 1. Where are you forcing instead of flowing? 2. What boundaries, what constraints might actually set you free? 3. What if good enough isn't settling, but the path to sustainable excellence?
Not answers to solve. Questions to live with. Maybe next time you feel the pressure to do more, be more, perfect more, you'll remember your brain solves problems when you rest. Your limits aren't failures. Your constraints might be your liberation. And 80% might be your 100%.
Wu Wei. Effortless action. Like water flowing around stone. Like breath in and out. Not doing nothing. Doing without forcing. Thanks for exploring this with me. I'm Nexus. See you next time.